The first thing to really take note of is the word, well, two words. The first one being sense. All right. From this word, you can have nonsense. Yeah. Nonsense. That's things that don't make sense. You can have common sense. Yeah? Common sense and nonsense. And of course, what we really want to focus on is how to make sense of the world you live in, right? That's important. Because when something makes sense, it adds up. When it's nonsense is where you have someone talking or information that's just not making sense. Then you have the word common, which implies that it's something everyone should know or it's common. But common sense is actually one of the most uncommon things in today's world. And the reason I said you, the world you live in, is because when people think of that word or they use the word world, a lot of the times it's given the impression that it's everything. But as you know, with wu-sabat, we break down that we have to be very specific, because when you say everything, we know that things are quantifiable. So even when people are saying nothing, yeah, so what they're really saying is no thing. And then a thing, if it's quantifiable, is something, or the sum of things, or the sum of a thing. Now, scientifically, when you look at the periodic table is something that defines all the elements. You can just Google periodic table and you will get a periodic table. And the periodic table, as you can see here, starts off with the first element being hydrogen. Yeah, hydrogen, or H1 on the table. And then from hydrogen, number 2, you're going to get helium, He, yeah, that's H2. And you go on and on and on till you get to like C, carbon, which is 6, as you can see here. You can keep going on to 8, which is oxygen. Nitrogen is 7, and so on and so forth. And that's important because when we start to talk about the world can be to you wherever you reside at that particular moment. So in this room, this is what is around me. This is the world to me right now. And everything else outside of the room doesn't really exist to me right now whilst I'm in this room. So we can keep going and look at that and say, I'm in a room which is inside a building, and this building is on a street, and this street is, you know, in the UK we would say, you know, in a town. And then we can keep going and saying, you know, it's in a borough, it's in a city, and it's in a country, and keep going till we say it's in a continent. We can then say it's inside the planet. The planet's inside the solar system, and the solar system is part of the galaxy. The galaxy is part of the universe. The universe is part of the multiverse. The multiverse is a part of the omniverse. You see, this is how granular or how you can scale it out. So when you say my world or the world you live in, it's important to realize that everything within your world is governed by you. So you become the universe, right? The universe of your world. So if you're here, without you, nothing would exist around you, whether you're looking at it as up, down, up, down, left, right, and we would use these coordinates to say, let's say north, east, south, and west, okay? Which forms the word news, right? The word news. So this is you. Of course, you've also got, so we've done up, down, side to side, but you've also got diagonally. So in whatever direction you look, you form that middle part, and this becomes your universe. So within your universe, everything is equal distant from you. And without you, nothing would exist to you. So that's you. As uni, the word uni means one, and it spirals outwards. So you can go as far as you can think of in terms of how I went from being in this one room to the multiverse to the omniverse. And all of that exists because you do. So when we're saying how to make sense of the world you live in, we have to now look at everything around you and how it affects you, okay? And that starts off with the last part of this word sense is when we talk about your senses, yeah? Your senses. And your senses, most are familiar with the five, they say, right? 5 senses. The 5 senses, which are what? 1, to see. 2, hear. 3, taste. So these relate to your eyes, your ears, your tongue or mouth. And what's the other 2? Smell, which relates to your nose. And 5, they say touch. Okay? Touch. But really, touch relates to awareness or perception, right? So how do you perceive everything around you? It's based on you knowing something by touch. But ironically, even though we say 5 senses, this one is really the same for all of these, because in order for you to smell something, your nose has to get particles that are touching for you to smell. To taste something, something has to touch your tongue for you to taste it. So when you're eating or putting food or whatever into your mouth, the tongue has to be touched for you to taste. For you to hear, again, you have sound or waves, sound waves that have to touch the eardrum, okay, for you to hear. To see, you have to have light touch your eye, your retina, right? So to see, again, light has to touch your eyes or the retina within your eyes. So light is composed of what? Photons, particles. This is why when we looked at the periodic table, everything around you, what you're calling the world you live in, is based on these senses. So to make sense of the world you live in, you have to first of all fully understand the word sense. The word sense can also be referred to as like a sensor, to sense things around you. That's perception, awareness, okay? People can talk nonsense, which doesn't make sense. It's just basically confusion. What should be common, as in everyone should know this, that makes sense, is uncommon, because common sense has become very uncommon. So people are not using their perceptors, their ability to feel, which then ties into when you touch and you feel, that goes into what we call emotions. Emotions, because this is such an important part, because emotions govern how you behave and how you react to things. And we say that E is energy. Energy, which depending on what you do with that energy, if you put it into motion, motion relates to moving, acting, doing something. And emotions are very important, because it's all based on how you react to the energy that you're receiving by way of your senses, which they teach you are these 5. But when we start to look at wu-sabat and the fact that all of these only make up one, which is touch, there are others that are missing. Because wu-sabat deals with a 9 ether, 9 mind doctrine, which is the highest, because in order for you to be your best, right, the number 9 is the highest number when we count from 0 to 9, and then the numbers just repeat after you get to 9. It's a cycle. So the other 4 senses, higher ones, are, we say, intuition. Intuition, okay. 7, psychometry. 8, clairvoyance. 'Intuition, psychometry, clairvoyance, and what's the last one? Just skip my mind. Telepathy, that's it. Telepathy. All right, so, so do your research on every single thing I'm saying. So this one, really, plus this one that is exaggerated to the 5, sense, see, hear, taste, smell, has these other 4, intuition, psychometry, clairvoyance, and telepathy. Intuition is the ability to know things innately. You just know. You just have an awareness, and you just know without somebody actually telling you. Psychometry is the ability to just feel, touch things, and pick up information and knowledge about the objects that you're touching. Clairvoyance is clear vision, right? Because when we're saying the world you live in and how to make sense of it, you have to recognize that You are an electromagnetic. Some of these words, electromagnetic semiconductor. Okay, we'll look at that. When we say electromagnetic, you can literally hear two words, electro and magnetic, or electricity or electric. Yeah, electric. Because again, semiconductor, what does that mean? Let's Google it. When you say you are an electromagnetic semiconductor, it means that you are able to, you're receiving and picking up energy, information, frequencies. Look, a semiconductor is a material with an electrical conductivity between that of a conductor and an insulator. So when you look at computer chips, for example, such as a silicon or germanium, its conductivity can be controlled by adding impurities, a process called doping. Now, if I put, let me just put human body is a conductor or a semiconductor, right? It says the human body is considered a conductor because it contains water and electrolytes that allow electricity to pass through it, making it a good conductor for electricity. Yeah. However, some research suggests it can also act as a semiconductor because its resistance can vary with voltage. Okay. And it carries on. Conductor composition. The body is approximately 60% water, and the water contains dissolved salts, which makes it a good conductor of electricity. Electrical pathways, tissues like nerves and muscles along with the fluids they contain create pathways for electrical current to flow. Right, so a practical example. This is why contact with the body during an electric shock can be dangerous, as the electricity can travel through the body's fluids. Semiconductor, varying resistance. The body's electrical resistance is constant. It can change depending on the voltage, similar to a semiconductor. The skin's role, because the skin, or the largest organ on your body. The skin's role, the resistance of the skin in particular can be very high, though it decreases with increased sweating, which is why the body's conductivity can vary. Biological processes. The body's own electrical activities, such as nerve signals and heartbeats, also relies on electrical conductivity, which is a characteristic of semiconductor-like materials. In essence, the most practical way to understand the human body's electrical properties is to view it as a conductor due to its fluid-based composition, while acknowledging that its behavior can be complex and in some ways resemble a semiconductor. All right, so what I'm getting you to, we're building a picture to address and teach you how to make sense of the world you live in. All right, and you as a being, you've got electricity running through you. You see, like sometimes when you wear polyester, or you see sparks fly off when you take off your jumper, that's because of that electricity. You're composed of 60% or more water, and your nerves, you send in signals, right, through your nervous system to the brain for information to be processed so that you can make decisions and understand what's going on around you. So when we go to this emotions govern how you react. I'm going to read you from emotions and the apostates, right? This is a patarak, and it addresses what we're talking about. So, likum, this is one. Likum, ay karadu pa hakak nuapu. For you, my children, the true Nuwapians, awaken and allow me to give you knowledge on tataf at emotions. 2. This knowledge came from a chayin, divine scripture. 3. A scripture which was received by me. This is Pa Nabab Yanun, of course. Dr. Malachi Z.K. York, the master of heaven and earth. So this scripture was received by him to give to us. 4, so that you may have the right knowledge, the right wisdom, and the right understanding, leading you into sound, right reasoning. Because reasoning is the highest form of processing this information, right? So the whole point of you having all of this ability is to be able to reason. Reason. You see the word reasoning. Because some people don't understand or overstand that reasoning is a higher form of thinking, because to think, everyone does that. But when you're thinking, you can also be regurgitating or just repeating information that you've been programmed with, when you're not actually taking the time or the ability to reason it out. That's why I was saying, if you reason things out, you can see the nonsense, right, from sense, which is supposed to be common, but has become uncommon, because people are not reasoning. They're just playing out the programming, right, which comes by way of you maybe watching television or other people's indoctrination or religious beliefs, etc., that you have taken on over the years. But let's keep going. 6, that which was given to you from on high. 7, the divine scripture wherein the first chapter, right, I'm talking about the tablet 1. That's from the holy tablets. When we say tablet 1, the 40 to 42nd verse. So 140 to 42 reads as thus. This is how the events of creation and pre-creation were recorded when life existed in and beyond the stars. Okay? This is why I said to you, when you're using the word world, we have to remember when you're saying the world that, you know, beyond the stars is still considered part of the world, depending on how broad your view is. So this chapter is talking about, this is how the events of creation and pre-creation, meaning before creation, were recorded, when life existed in and beyond the stars. The all is, was, and will be. 41. Felt within a love, a divine love that is unknown or felt by those disagreeable beings, and thus emotions were. At the first birth of emotions was the birth of motion. That's why I said, like, motion differs from emotion. So things gradually began to move about. And it was then that movement and motion was conceived out of triple darkness, for the light birthed the chaos. So when we're saying light, when light comes in, it comes from darkness, and that light brings about chaos, because when you look around, when there's light, you start to see different shapes, different colors, different objects, and that's where the chaos begins, because there's too many things for you to process. So light birthed chaos. Let's carry on from verse 8 of emotions and the apostates. Now, of all the emotional barriers, the most devastating is anger. Okay? Anger. The most devastating emotion is anger. We're going to stop for a moment and go into this. Because when we're saying how to make sense of the world you live in, and anger is an emotion that is the most devastating. Devastating out of what? Remember, you have what we refer to as the 9 mental diseases. And this excerpt is from our scroll, Fast Track Your Spiritual and Conscious Journey, on page 57. You see these 9, what we call diseases. The number 1 here is ego. Number 2, pride. Number 3, jealousy. And look, 4, they're not in the order of, as we're saying here, devastation, but in this case, anger, number 4, is the most devastating, and we'll carry on looking at why. Then 5, greed. 6, lies. 7, lust. 8, gluttony. And 9, belief. So the ego is where everything is about you, and, you know, like the master explained it, the real Trinity is the ego's part of that, as in when you look at yourself, you see that you are one, the person people see you as, yeah? Because you don't see yourself, how other people see you. And sometimes the way people see you, they put you on a pedestal and make you into something that you may not be, right? Then number 2 of the Trinity is the way that you see yourself. And that's the one that generally can get you into the most trouble, because it's the me, myself, and I. And the third one is the way you really are. So the ego plays an important part of these 9 mental diseases. Pride. Pride is where you may need help, but your pride won't allow you to be corrected or to receive that help, because you know you feel that you can handle everything by yourself and you don't want other people to give you help. Jealousy is where you may not know or be aware how somebody acquired or got certain maybe material things, and or whatever, they're successful, and you have a jealousy towards them. Now let's carry on with anger. In fact, let me quickly run through this. So anger we'll come back to, because that's the most devastating one. Greed is when you have enough, but you still want more and more and more, and you may have and other people don't, but you still don't share or give them, but you want more. Lies is obvious. The many lies we've been told and given by way of religions and just society and general things where people don't give you the facts, don't give you the actual right knowledge, they just make things up. Lust is, again, not just dealing with attraction or physical things, not just sex, but just, you know, lusting after glitter and glamour and maybe fame. And the last 2 are obvious, where you're dealing with greed, where you're eating too much, even when you're full. Even now, as we're going into this festive season, you see people just overbuying things and overeating, and belief is based on lies. As you can see, the word lie right in the middle of the word belief anyway. So again, it's like, I believe this, I believe that, which is normally men's opinions, and it's not based on facts. But let's go back and carry on with the, so it says that the greatest, let me go back a little bit. Yeah, so number 8, now, of all the emotional barriers, the most devastating is anger, right? Because it is the greatest enemy of hatat, peace, for it is the most negative. So the reason anger is the most devastating is just also because it's the most negative. And when you start to look at how to make sense of the world you live in, these are the 9 mental diseases that you must eradicate to have the most success. And anger is one of the ones that leads to all kinds of problems within your life or your world. It is the greatest enemy of peace, for it is the most negative. 10. It is a modification of lust, and when one's desires are not gratified, one becomes angry. So when people don't get their own way, they become angry. The akal, mind, then becomes confused. Yeah. So anger leads to you being confused. When you see people that are angry or they're just talking, it's like their mind is confused. And when you're confused, you're not acting rationally. So let's carry on. The mind becomes confused and memory and understanding is lost. So during the time you're angry, overstanding, meaning you should be over something as opposed to understanding where whatever that thing is above you. And you are now so angry that not only are you confused, your mind is confused, but your memory and overstanding is lost. 12, things are said and done without awareness or control. So now it leads to you being out of control as well. You see, when people are angry, they say things like, I saw red. The energy that they're giving off is red because that goes to that smokeless fire that is referred to in Islam as Narin Samun. Okay, so when you're that angry, even your memory is lost, your overstanding is lost, and you're saying things are said and done without awareness or control. So you become out of control. Leave me alone, I don't care. You're just carrying on and acting out of control. 13, and did you know that anger is a great danger to one's own physical and psychic khatat bodies? So it's also a danger to your own physical and psychic body, as well as those of others. 14, as a matter of fact, the whole nervous system is shattered by a single fit of anger. This is why it's so important to know the human body. Let's have a look at the human body. Systems of human body, that's what I'm putting in, and we look at some of the images, you start to see that you have many systems that are intertwined, like your nervous system that we've just spoken about. We mentioned the electricity already, right? If you look at your body, you have your brain being one of the major organs. Then you see the spinal column going down to connecting you to, here you go, like you've got different nerves all the way down. You've got the lumbar plexus. You've got tissue, you've got bones, you've got skin, you've got nerves, you have electricity, you have a lot of liquids, as in water, all operating at the same time as a part of the human body systems. Right, so the nervous system gets shattered, and not only does it affect you physically, but it affects everybody that is around you as well. And then what's happening is this energy is in motion, and it's just spreading and can affect everyone and anyone around you. So 14, as a matter of fact, the whole nervous system is shattered by a single fit of anger. 15, just as heat and light can be transferred into electricity, anger can be transferred into spiritual energies. This is why even when somebody's on the phone to you, they're angry, that sound is being sent down that telephone wire or line, and you're picking it up as sound, and it's converted, and it's spiritual energies as well, which can affect and come in you. 16, all vices, unwanted qualities, and wrong actions stem from anger. So all the vices that people take on, whether it's smoking, drinking, being oversexed, alcohol, all stem from anger. 17, occasionally, a spiritual mulmad teacher may express a little anger outwardly in order to correct a mudras student. You know, that's like sometimes, let's say you have a child and they're acting up, and you reprimand them even just by the way you look, or that the way you command them to stop. It may appear outwardly as if you're angry, but internally you're still, if you're in control of your emotions, you're not really angry, but those reactions will make the child stop in their track. I mean, some people will tell you, like when we were coming up, your parents only had to look at you if you were acting up in a crowd, or, you know, in front of their friends and embarrassing them. They just only had to look at you and you will fix up. you get the message and you know what that means, but it doesn't mean they're really angry on the inside. So Pana Babianun is teaching us here that, you know, a teacher may express a little anger outwardly in order to correct a student. 18, yet this should not be confused with an emotional outburst. Okay, so that's a big difference to when you're reacting off of emotions. Emotional outburst is when you see people like just they're out of control because of emotions, because someone has said something that has angered them, or a thought or a situation has triggered them to be angry. And that's the big difference, where you're acting off of emotional outburst, an emotional outburst, as opposed to you being calm and controlled on the inside. 19. Though she or he may appear hot and indignant on the outside, a true munbab master remains cool within. And one of the things that, even from my experience, when you see people angry and acting out of control and you maintain that calm, it's almost as if the calmer you are, the more it triggers them, and they will say they want you to react or feed the force that they're giving out by their anger with the spiritual energies, and those energies are coming out. But if you're somebody who remains calm, they look at you like there's something wrong with you. Like, oh, you're not emotional. But being emotional in terms of having an outburst is completely different to being able to just stop, don't get involved, don't feed the force, try to basically release a vibe that's going to make them feel more calm. And if they continue to try to, you know, get you involved, then there are many things we can do to deal with the situation. Okay, so let's go ahead. 20, the true master remains cool within. 21, for her or his motive is the growth of her or his disciples or students. 22, only when anger is the outcome of selfish or petty motive is it wrong. So yes, you can express anger, but it's when it's being done based on selfish, right, which is me, myself, and I, tying back to the ego, or petty motive is it wrong, right? Because sometimes people think that in wu-sabat we're saying you can't be angry or don't get angry. You can, and with any situation, it's how you deal with it, how you control it, how you channel it. You know, how do you not make it blow out of proportion and over something that's very petty, or you have a motive that, you know, is wrong. 23, and it can be especially very difficult to control when it has been allowed to grow and become habitual, right? That's a very important part, when it becomes a habit. When you do it over and over and over again, it becomes a habit or habitual, yeah? That makes it even more difficult because you've been doing it so many times and you do it over and over again that it becomes a habit. This is the same thing when you become addicted to things. It's because you do something that's wrong, you know is wrong, and you do it over and over again, and after a while it becomes a habit, it becomes an addiction, and then it's more difficult to deal with. And all of this is going to help you make sense of the world you live in. We're living in a world now where so many things are coming at you, so much information. We're in the information age. You watching social media and videos and the news and the things that are going on in the world, your peers, your people around you, and maybe your loved ones or people that you're, you know, in contact with. And in your world, this can be overwhelming. It can lead to mental health. Okay, so everything in your universe, everything, remember what I said here, things? When we say everything, we're saying things, right? So everything is mental, because the sum of things that form your universe exist because of your mind. You're here, whatever is happening around you in either direction, whether you're going up, so that's, you know, 9, 8, 6, 7, 6, sorry, yeah, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and going this way, going down. So you have as above, so below, okay? But everything within your universe is based on your mind, and your mind, which is a subset of the mental reservoir, is how you cope with the energies and the emotions by way of accessing your senses. The highest senses of intuition, psychometry, clairvoyance, and telepathy, these help you to push upwards. So we're pushing upwards, and the ones that pull down, right? So that will pull you down, and so you have 9 ether, and you have 6 ether. 6 ether is pulling you downwards, and 9 ether is trying to raise you upwards. So when we're dealing with the higher senses, this is what we're dealing with: intuition, psychometry, clairvoyance, and telepathy. All right, let's keep going. Only 22, only when anger is the outcome of selfish and petty motive is it wrong. 23, and it can be especially very difficult to control when it has been allowed to grow and become habitual. Anger gains strength with repetition. So the more you repeat it over and over again, the more it's like you're building momentum. With repetition, as frequent irritation over trifling matters is a sign of mental weakness. I just said everything is mental, right? Meaning your mind. When you're constantly angry, that is showing mental weakness. Mental weakness. I'm going to read that again. So you hear people say, have a good week. That's phonetically, even though they're saying weak, it's also weak, as in losing strength. This is why we always say avoid words like hello, because it's dealing with hell is low vibration. Have a good week. You know, why do you want to be weak? You want to be strong. And all these tones and vibrations do have an impact on your emotions. So mental weakness comes by way of when anger gets strength with repetitions, as frequent irritation over trifling matters is a sign of mental weakness. These are people that just constantly anger over really simple, minute little things. And over time, it makes their mind weak. 25. If one watches the account mind carefully for signs of irritability, then control is no problem, right? This is why we have the scrolls, the mind scroll, and you can read about the mind in the Holy Tablets as well as the mind scroll. And what it does, it makes your mind strong to the point where you monitor the mind for these signs of, you know, you're constantly irritated and then you lose control. But if you're watching it and you're able to control it, this is what I was saying before, that when you're able to be calm under any situation, you're able to then have control over your mind. And when anger has been controlled, all others, mawut, die by themselves. You see, so that's why it's so important to be calm and in control all the time. So you have to watch your mind. This is why when we're looking at these 9 mental diseases, they're all designed to agitate your mind, to irritate you. Constantly you're being bombarded with nonsense. Constantly by people, places and things. So you're around people that just, and sometimes you're having conversations with people and they're like the energy vampires. They literally just drain you and draw your energy and siphon your energy by talking nonsense all the time. And if you succumb to that, then what they do is make you irritated. And then the other things like religion. Remember I was saying that beliefs, that's one of the 9 mental diseases. It's like dealing with belief. You believe in things, but there's no facts, no proof behind what you're believing. And then you talk about these things and get into arguments and confrontations and religious dogma, and you know, you just go around in circles talking about nonsense, things that don't make sense. And that is going to irritate you. And that's why you have to eradicate these 9 mental diseases. And once you've controlled your mind, everything else dies. Let's keep going. 27. This can be overcome by carefully developing a counter force. So when we say counter, going against, or if you're going to be angry, then what do you need to do to combat that so that you're not angry? So counter force, the virtue of patience. Patience, you hear people say patience is a virtue. And you can see the word patient in there as well. Patience. Patience is the ability to be able to practice put that patient or shouldn't. So Yeah. So be patient, or being patient is the way you can deal with control. Some people don't have patience. They spark off, or they're easily triggered, or they try something and they give up very easily. You know, I want to meditate. I want to learn to deal with higher consciousness, but then you can't be disciplined enough or patient enough to do it over and over again until it becomes second nature or just natural to you. So patience is something, that's why they say patience is a virtue. And in checking it, one gradually strengthens the will. Because in order for you to navigate, coming back to how to make sense of the world you live in order for you to be able to do that, you have to have the ability to learn and strengthen your will. Because your will is what gives you the ability to make decisions. This is where you get the word willpower from, right? So the more you practice patience, you have the willpower to make decisions, to go to the left, to the right, to go this way or that way, to do something or not to do it, to take that cigarette and smoke it or not, to drink the alcohol or to do any of the vices that are going to agitate you and make your world hell. This is what we're really saying, because if you can't make sense of the world around you, you're constantly being pulled in different directions, you're irritated, you're agitated, you don't know whether to go left or right, because again, in the Bible, this is what it says, that when your eye was open, you knew good from bad, or to know the correct way or the right way to do things and the way not to do things. You see, so your will is undecided until you make a decision. Yeah, that's why when people say you've got the term in religion they use is free will, which again doesn't make sense when you are punished or there is a consequence for you choosing. Yeah, you got willpower to choose to go either direction, but in religion they say it's free, but if you choose to go against one of the gods of the Bible or the Quran or any of the religious books, you get punished for it. So therefore it's not actually free. So by learning to remain silent, even in the face of insult and abuse, because people that are, one of the most famous words today, especially amongst females, is the word narcissist, you know, and even when you're being abused or someone is like attacking you or insulting you, if you learn to remain silent, it's almost like they can't deal with it. It's just like you diffuse that energy. It's like even when somebody wants to fight you and they're like huffing and puffing and they're angry and you're like just calm, silent. You don't feed that force and give it momentum. So the master teacher is teaching us by way of this Patrak, emotions and the apostates. We have it available here at Nashat. To remain patient, always speak moderately, and if there is a possibility of a burst of anger during the conversation, all you have to do to exercise this silence is to just stop speaking and go and do something else. So when you see confrontation, conflicts, or you see two couples or people arguing, if one is wise, they will just stop talking, stop speaking, and go and do something else. That kind of diffuses it. It doesn't always work because the aggressor or the one that is angry or being abusive, it may follow you and continue to try and agitate you and aggravate you. So arguments are hard, so your words should be soft. Like some people just don't know how to resolve a conflict by being calm and speaking calmly or softly and then coming to a resolution. So the master is saying in 31, arguments are hard, so your words should be soft. For if the madat at words are hard, they create nagaz at conflicts. 33, never argue when you're hungry. 34, sharub, drinking cool maye water or taking a brisk mache walk are excellent aids in combating anger. 35, as in maintaining silence for a long wakat time. This is what, when you meditate and practice being in silence, practice being in silence for long periods of time, over time, it's easy for you. And I've heard people say, to me especially as well, your silence can be deafening, which means that when you are, like the master is saying here, that maintaining silence for a long time will help in eradicating that anger, and some people can't be quiet. Some people can't sit in silence. They can't turn off the radio, turn off the television, turn off any noise around them and sit in silence. So 35, as in maintaining silence for a long wakat time. 36, smoking, eating bad foods and heavy alcohol drinking are irritants. Okay, not only are they irritants, like smoking, it's something that is not really designed for your body and can also be, it's a stimulant, but it's also an intoxicant, all right? Because you have the nicotine within that cigarette, that's an intoxicant. That's why sometimes when you see people come out of like churches or mosques and the first thing they do is light a cigarette, that's still an intoxicant. Smoking, eating bad foods and heavy alcohol drinking are irritants. 37, it irritates and aggravates the problems, therefore best avoided. 39, also you may have noticed, Yasar, family, can bring out the worst in you. It's the people that know you know how to push your buttons. Loved ones know just how to get inside and upset you. 41, well, if you expect too much of others, you deserve the pain of a letdown. So a lot of the times, this is why we say don't be judgmental or have such high expectations of people, because not everybody can reach the same standards that you may have. And so, they will let you down if you put them, on a pedestal or expect too much from them. So you should take people as they come, get to know people's nature, their, what they're capable of and what they're not capable of. That way you're not judgmental. You can deal with people based on their nature. Do what you know you can and don't try to be the show-off. It can bring you problems. This ties back into what I was saying about the Trinity, the way you see yourself, the way other people see you, and the way you really are. And that's why people say there are three sides to a story, or three sides to the truth. There's your side, there's my side, and there's the truth or the real side. And so the one that gets you in trouble the most is the way you may see yourself, as opposed to how people see you, and in comparison to how you really are. So as an example, most of the people in religion that people have made, like your let's say Muhammad, Haile Selassie, Jesus, all these people were just like normal people, because they would say you and me are the same, but the congregation or the people put them up on the pedestal and expected them to do things that they themselves never even considered, and give them titles, like you're the conquering lion of Judah, you're this, you're that. And after a while, if the congregation and everybody makes you feel that you are that guy, then you might start to believe it. This is why it's always important to stay humble. And the master teacher says at the end of the day, some of these leaders are not responsible. It's their congregation that put them up there. And then he says, I am not a religious man. Don't make me into a religious or a holy man, because I'm not your holy man. Because most of these holy people, their character or their, they have holes in them, So he's like, I'm a normal guy. I'm a teacher. I teach you the facts. I teach the truth. Go and check it out. Research and find out for yourself. And that's what we try as much as we can as student teachers to do, Try not to think it's you, it's coming through you, but from the master teacher, because without him, of course you've got your own nature and personalities that, come across. But however, don't get it twisted. The warner is partner Babyanun. All right, let's keep going. So, 42. Do what you know you can and don't try to be the show off. It can bring you problems. 43. If you go into crowded areas, you're bound to find trouble. 44. It is up to you to control your fat emotions, and better to check for your emotions either before they take form or when it is a small ripple in the subconscious mind. I have warned you many times over, mind your mind for the jewels of your soul. 46. For left unattended is the very example of those of you who have lost your way on this great journey from then to now to then. Those of you who fell back asleep as you walk around under our Reye sun, it Zamam day, and Nawum sleep under our moon each night. You Murgatu apostates with your conjectures and fabrications of your own opinions concerning our way of life, to Hawa create spellbinding Zaam religious opinions of hopes, wishes, Achak that faiths, beliefs, and never come to help you. All right, so in religion, they teach you to call on and ask for help from these entities that you look to and call gods, etc., but they don't come to help you. So what happens is, when you're fabricating and making up lies or following other races' way of life, then it's not going to provide you with any solution, because they can't hear you. You're tuning into the wrong station. Emotional energy. This is another actual fact relating to senses. We're going to read from verse 60. Whilst the originators, the Negroids, cover all vibrations. In fact, let me go before that, because this is relating to these ethers that I was talking about before. So, Let me go to verse. So I'm going to talk about, we talk about the chakras that are between the seats of your body when I showed you the body system before. As you know, there are 7 abodes of existence spoken about, and 2 which they dare not speak about, making it 9 abodes in all, 48. We will begin with this known universe. Yeah, your universe, this known universe. The material plane of things and physical plane. The material plane of things and physical planes of beings living. Let me read that again. The material plane of things and physical plane of beings living. 49. Both are in fact one abode, just vibrating on higher and lower rates. We call them per-at, abodes, planes, realms. We did a video called From 3D to 9D. We did another one called Timeline of Existence. If you haven't seen those 2 videos, go and watch those, and they will relate to what we're talking about when we're saying 9 and 6 ether, and also dealing with the higher vibrations going up and the lower vibrations going down. Okay, both are in fact one abode, just vibrating on higher and lower rates. We call them per-at, abodes, planes, realms. Now, the physical abode is the lowest, not in direction, in state of existence, being the lowest of the 7, and it consists of subabodes. 51. Each subdivide into subabodes on and one, and begins at atoms of matter, quanta of energy ordered by time. 52. The physical abode is referred to as the lowest abode because the nutational rate of its constituent atoms and quanta has the slowest frequency of the 7 abodes. 53. This planet, Patanun, the Najumat, stars, and the Nawar, light, you see, are all of this lowest nutational rate. 54. Each of the 7 abodes of existence consist of atoms and quanta, and each abode is differentiated from others by the nutational rate of the matter energy composing it. 55. Therefore, there are 7 nutational rates, 1 for each abode of existence. 56. They who ruled for 6,000 years, or 6 ether beings, don't have any scientific instrument on this physical material abode which can detect or measure the presence of the 3 higher abodes, 7, 8, and 9 ethers. So when we're looking at these going up, so the 7, 8, and 9 ethers, right? 6 ether beings do not have any equipment at the moment to measure them. And when you watch that timeline of existence that we did previously, I was explaining about the cycle that we're in right now, which is the new 24,000 year cycle, made up of 6,000 year cycles each. And these consist of a sun cycle, a moon cycle, a sun cycle, and a moon cycle. Okay, and together adds up to 24,000. And these 6,000 year cycles should be the other way around. Let me do it that way so we can give you a quick recap. So this would be the moon, this one, and this will be a sun. This will be a moon, sun. Right, so we're going counterclockwise here. So the last 6,000 years, right, consisting of 2000, 2000, 2000, you could split those into two as well. So that gives you a breakdown of the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6,000 years. The year 2000 AD of the Gregorian calendar, we've just come out of this last moon cycle, and the last 2,000 years brought us to the year 2000 AD, and a new cycle of 24,000 years has started. And what we're saying is during these cycles, the moon cycles are 6 ether and the sun cycles are 9 ether. So when you go from 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1, we would be looking at 6 ether here, ties into the chakras that people talk about, you know, the 7. Okay? What the master teacher is saying is that the 7, 8, and 9, they don't have any equipment or apparatus to be able to detect or measure them. This is why when we talk about us being 9 ether beings and having the extra 2 above our head, they know nothing about this. Or when we talk about ether being what everything is composed of or engulfed in, some skeptics, they don't know much about it. They have heard about it. People are delving into it. Scientists are talking about it, but they really don't have any material equipment to detect or measure the presence of the 3 higher abodes of 7, 8, nor 9 ethers. 57, they vibrate much faster and at a higher rate that will destroy them. These are more refined, more defined abodes of existence. 58, now Nuwapians, you Negroids vibrate on all 9 ether abode at the same time as atoms and energy of one nutational rate are not in rapport as they were in those of a different nutational rate. All right, so if you're on the higher abodes or higher vibration, you automatically can vibrate on the lower ones. But it doesn't stand to reason that when you're on the lowest ones, you can vibrate on the higher ones. Okay, that's what the master is explaining. So, and the nutational rate for each abode is different. 59. That is, each race, those being root races, the oldest and fastest to vibrate is the Negroid, followed by their many sub-races, and last, the root race of the Caucasoids and its many sub-races, which vibrate only up to 6 ether. The Mongoloids up to 7 ether. 60. While the originators, the Negroid, cover all vibrations as the creators of all others from themselves up to 9 ether. Inasmuch as the nerve composing the mortals one sense, which is touch. Remember we started here saying this one sense touch, which is touch, which became 4 other senses in growth. So this became these other 4. 62. Light touches to see. Particles touch by the air to smell. Waves vibrate to touch the eardrum to hear. and matter to touch, the taste buds to taste. 63. Yet, all of them are contact with the nerves composing what mortals call their five senses. 64. While in fact, that's only for the other two root races, while the divine race of goddess and gods, not demigods, as the Mongoloids, or the demons as the Caucasoids. 65. The Negroids have higher senses, 4 higher to make up the 9 senses. So these are the 4 higher senses I'm talking about, to make up the 9 senses. All of atoms, while the mortals claim their 5 physical senses and agree is all of atoms of the same nutational rate as those of any other physical instrument. 66. Their 5 senses are also unable to perceive the higher abodes. 67. Yet, as you Nuapians vibrate now on this lower abode and use only your 5 senses, there are certain inner powers inherent in you as the seed of the Natharu. It's in your blood, and by such you have Ach, ether, and Ba'a, soul, and Ka'a, spirit, while the other mortals have only Ach, ether, and Ka, spirit, so that their mental powers are limited. 68. So you must drop your vibration level down to theirs for them to come in and use your physical body on this abode, and by you travel to higher abodes to enact their isfat, evil. Yet you have to welcome them by accepting their ways and actions, their lust, greed, emotional attraction to their own kind, which is all they can feel for. They only love kind and animal kind being. They vibrate at the same rate with all other animals and beasts. Kill to rule, kill to eat, kill for joy, kill for pleasure. Evil by his very nature, and once you accept his 1 to 6 ether beings of spirit, Ka'a, forces into your being, you have in fact lost your soul, Ba'a, and become of them. However, certain Sakham'at powers inherent in your mind can provide the means whereby the upper forces of Hu, Oversoul, will pull you back above by chanting and praying and devotion to that which is right to do, and may even be seen, felt, experienced. These intelligent 9 ether soul forces beings, Etherians, exist on all 9 abodes, and the bodies of the persons who function on any given abode are composed of atoms of that respective nutational rate. So they can be saved, redeemed, claimed by one with beings in the upper and lower worlds or abodes. This is Pa Nabab Yanun. Right, so that's explaining that if you fall down by chanting prayer and taking control, you can be pulled back up to the 9 by the ether or Etherian beings that vibrate on the higher abodes. Okay, how to make sense of the world you live in. You make sense of the world you live in by being aware of your senses, and to avoid nonsense, realize that the one sense that has been exaggerated to the 5 is limited, but you have the ability to raise yourself in vibration and to access your 4 higher senses: intuition, psychometry, clairvoyance, telepathy, which will help you to make decisions by the way you react to your emotions and how you don't allow that energy to be used in a negative way to affect you. You reason things out, which is a higher form of thinking. Avoid getting angry, because anger is one of the most devastating 9 mental diseases. And how you get anger to be under control is not to make it a habit or for it to become habitual. Patience, exercising patience, is going to help you eradicate anger and to remain calm. And what you can do when you're in a situation with somebody like that is to remain silent, or to drink a glass of cool water, or go out for a walk. So when somebody's angry and coming at you, you can say, look, I'm going to go out for a walk. Drink a glass of cool water, because it brings your temperature down and it helps you. And then you have to remember that your universe is governed by you. Everything that takes place in your universe is down to your mental, how your mind is able to control your actions that follow from what you think. And willpower, that's what you're building up. You're building up the power to basically make decisions. And even though religion teaches you that will is free, it isn't, because you have to face the reaction. For every action, there's what? An opposite equal reaction. This is dealing with facts and science. So you have to be aware that if you're not in control, you're going to have a world you're living in that's going to bring you hell. And you will not be successful under those low vibrations. Instead, you want to raise higher so that you can be in what they consider to be heaven, which is peace and bliss. We say hatat, bliss. And that state of bliss connects you to the ethereal abodes of 9 ether, which is 9 to the 9 power of 9. And there are beings that reside on these higher vibrations and frequencies who can help you once you're able to connect to them, known as the Etherians or the ether beings. And these are our ancestors. And this is what we're trying to achieve by raising our vibrations up. The class this Saturday by myself is called Ascending and Descending Beings. We're going to go into more of this, ascending and descending beings, because you have beings that are coming down and you have beings that are going up, raising up. You have to decide which one you are and the consequences of going up or down.